Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Parenting Hour. You're tuned in to Unity FM 93.5 here in Birmingham and the West Midlands, and 105.1 down south in Luton, and all the other studios that take the show. Welcome to all the listeners that are tuned in this evening, listening to another wonderful session, inshallah, that we're going to have around parenting again. My name is Kathleen Roche-Nagi, and I'm here with you for the rest of the evening, inshallah. And we're going to be discussing parenting with somebody that is an eminent scholar and well-known person that we are privileged to have on air this evening with us. His name is Professor Dawood Al-Hidabi, and he is he's a PhD in education from Stirling University in Scotland. Oh, we love Scotland. And worked in different universities and is currently a Professor of Education in the International Islamic University in Malaysia. So it's an honour to have you this evening. Professor Dawood, are you there on the line?
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It is really privileged that you're able to give up your time to have this session with you, inshallah, on the radio and talk about some very important topics. I think parenting stretches over so much, and we need to have strong families, to have strong communities, to have strong societies. And we know from our work we do that there's many issues there in parenting, and I'm sure you have come across a lot of issues also that you can bring lots of knowledge to us this evening, and we'll all be learning from you, inshallah. Inshallah. So you, mashallah, you have a very interesting career, mashallah, that has brought you to many different countries. Would you like to kind of introduce yourself to our listeners a bit more than the little introduction I gave you, if you can, please?
Okay. First, I was brought up in Yemen.
Mm-hmm.
I finished my first degree in physics, so I was a teacher of physics. Then I did my PGCE in Jordan Hill College of Education in Glasgow in teaching physics. And then I moved to Stirling. I did my master and PhD in teacher training. When I went back to Yemen, I was teaching and working in teaching for undergraduate, postgraduate in the Faculty of Education. And also I was holding different posts, including a Vice Chancellor of a university, which I collaborated with my friend to establish, called the University of Science and Technology. And then later on, I moved as visiting professor in the States and in different countries in the Middle East. And I settled recently in the last 5 years in Malaysia. At the moment, I am teaching and also supervising postgraduate research and in the International Islamic University of Malaysia in Kuala Lumpur.
MashaAllah, that's a wide range. And what are you supervising now? What topic?
Well, mostly we supervise in the area of curriculum and instruction, in teaching, in counseling, in educational management, in different areas, really.
Very good, mashallah, mashallah. So you've had a wide background there, mashallah, lots of different fields that you've taken part in and done over the years, mashallah. And in this time, you've had also work around parenting, and you work with people around parenting?
Yes. In fact, we worked in volunteering in the area of family counseling and parenting. So we try to put our knowledge into action so that it could be beneficial, because the Prophet ﷺ said, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min ilmin la yanfa'. So he was trying to seek the refuge from Allah subhanahu from a knowledge which has no impact, no benefit for people. So we are trying our best to relate everything we learn into the benefit of society, so whether in Southeast Asia, Middle East, or in Europe.
And how do you manage to do that? So I can understand from some of our work, we also, mashallah, implement our programs are based, or we refer a lot to Islamic knowledge, so ayahs, Quran and Hadith. So it's practical skills courses we do to enable parents to see the changes. And although we're not teaching them Islam, we use those references so that they can understand them, because sometimes, I don't know if you found this in your experience, that they haven't really grasped the Islamic ethos of what Islam is telling us in relation to different spheres. So they may know it in one area but not transfer it into their parenting, for example, and how to gain rewards from their parenting with intention of raising children and intention of doing things, that they forget about these concepts.
Well, you have touched upon a very, very important topic. In fact, one of the areas I'm working with my students is what we can call integration of revealed knowledge to acquired knowledge, particularly in the area of social sciences. You know, most of the social sciences, the role of Muslim, in fact, scholars is very limited. And now we are trying, even in our university, at the International Islamic University, to author textbooks and to teach in order to relate the revealed knowledge, Quran and Sunnah, to our own different disciplines, whether psychology or sociology or education or management or finance or whatever. So we are trying our best, and alhamdulillah, I have developed myself an approach of how to impact, how to make inferences from the Quran and Sunnah in the different topics, whether in educational school curriculum or counseling or therapy, or even management and leadership. So we are trying our best to do that, and this is one of the areas we have to take into account, particularly in the area of family and parenting, because it is unique in Islam, and it has given Islam has given a very important attention to the formation of the family and also to the strategies of parenting.
Yes, and it's so right, mashallah, that it is all there in our Quran and our hadiths, and sometimes we try to do it the other way around. We're looking at the scientific knowledge and trying to make links, whereas actually it is already there in so many ways, and so many people are unfortunately not able to make those links. So that's, mashallah, so you're doing it very broad, so in counselling, in parenting, in leadership, you said, so you do a lot, very, very broad links.
Different areas.
Different areas. Is that difficult to do?
Look, I think the problem is that in order to make such kind of relevance, what you have to do first, you have to know the language of Arabic language, in order to be able to understand directly from the Quran. Otherwise, you will depend on interpretation. And from my own experience, the interpretation, yes, it is good, not bad. It is a minimum thing you can refer to, but sometimes one word has different meanings. And in order to be able to extend your horizon of thinking and interpreting and also even making the inferences, I think it is a must to know the Arabic language and also the tafsir. The tafsir, there are multiple tafsir. One will focus on, say, Arabic language. One will focus on fiqh. One will focus on miracles. So you have to be very careful about that, and you have to encompassing the knowledge. So not anyone can relate it unless it is very specific areas. But in order to be able to relate the revealed knowledge to acquired knowledge, you have to have both knowledge in Quran Sunnah and also knowledge of the acquired knowledge in your own area, say psychology or sociology or management or whatever.
Yes, I can understand that. If you just look at Tarbiyah, for example, the meaning of that one word in Arabic has about 10 meanings in English.
Exactly. I found it really rewarding and satisfying to look at the Quran and the Sunnah. We've been looking with some counselors in the Muslim world on the emotional side of Quran, on the counseling skills and therapies in the Quran and other areas, which we have come to, enormous understanding of what we can learn from Quran into our life. And that will, in fact, give, a responsibility on the side of the scholars to disseminate that kind of knowledge to families, Muslim families and parents. because most of the Muslim parents lack that kind of knowledge. And we have it because sometimes they refer to counselors who have knowledge of their culture. So they give them the wrong advice. So things are getting worse, really. Rather than helping them, it's hindering them.
Have you got any examples of that? In my years of delivering, we have lots of funny examples. Have you got some examples of that when they misinterpret culture?
Yes, of course. I mean, now the kind of advice is given by school teachers or counselors regarding, say, premarital marriages or premarital sex or whatever. Now they will say differently for sure because the ideology they are holding, the culture they have. So you will have a wrong advice, which might create conflict in the people's life, in the Muslim families. So I think we need to be very careful and to adopt preventive strategies whereby we can educate first the families and parents before the children even.
Yes, indeed, we do need that knowledge, and we do need to be able to differentiate and understand the culture of the countries we're in. From our perspective, we have a lot of cultures that come from abroad that have misconceptions, and they're the more common ones that we continuously have to challenge because they feel it is Islamic knowledge, but actually it is a cultural knowledge.
Well, this is a different matter again, because many parents, they come from different parts of the world. They have their own habits and culture, which has nothing to do with Islam at all. Okay? And they hold it as it is the true Islamic understanding, which is not really. It is, as you said, rightly a culture or a habit. So, but there are some core values I think we have to agree on. For instance, I just give you an example. The concept of a family. Now, the concept of a family from an Islamic perspective is not just the husband and wife and children. In fact, the relatives, like grandfathers, grandmothers, uncles, aunts, all of them are part of the family. And they play a role in bringing peace, security, and even parenting. So, the basic unit also in a Muslim society or in a Muslim community is the family. Now, if this family is broken and there is no, sound structure for this family, because sometimes in other culture we will look at the basic unit of a society is the individual, a man or a woman. But from an Islamic perspective, it's a family. It's an integrated role into one unit. It's not a different role, it's integrated role. That kind of conception should help us to hold to the importance of forming a family and sustaining that kind of harmony, love, and peace. And there is a lot of challenges against that kind of concept.
Yeah, that's our basis as well, I must say, is trying to get us to reunite the love and the respect and the justice within families and of parents. Of course, as you say, it's abroad. We don't end here in Islam. We don't end when our children become 18 and say that's it, now my parenting is over. It's part of the parents' duties to continue after that and ensure that the young people, when they grow up and ready for marriage, that they get the help they need for a spouse. Unfortunately, sometimes parents themselves need help in developing that love, that compassion at home, that they're not themselves the role models for young people as they grow up. And this is where those young people are learning their parenting skills from. And parents are not able to, or don't have the knowledge, or don't go back to Islam or go back to the Prophet Islam and see from his practices what they should be doing to initiate that this is part of how families should behave and get on well together and initiate that love, because this is what their children are learning. Have you found something similar?
Yeah. I think what you have discussed is very important. But that boils down to the very basic fact that sometimes marriage took place wrongly. What I mean by wrongly, that sometimes we get married simply because of a thrust of an emotion, not a real understanding to the roles and responsibilities of husband and wife. So, for instance, if we get married as a result, but we love each other purely for emotional trust, but we forget about the future of our generation, we might face a lot of difficulty later on, because most of the parents, they have different expectations. You know, they have a very nice dream about getting married, but they end up with different expectation of the role of the different spouses. They don't agree on very basic things. They don't have in common the outlook, the perception of life, the meaning of life. So they end up with divorce at the end of the day.
Yep.
So in order to make sure to have a loving, compassionate family, we have to be very careful in selecting our partner, our spouse, and also in discussing in advance, prior to marriage, what is expected for each other. And also what is the role of each other towards each other and towards our kids as well.
Yeah.
If we agreed on that, that will lead to a very fruitful, successful, effective marriage. But if we don't agree before marriage about this kind of thing, we might end up with, divorce, really.
Yeah, well, we come across it a lot, and how we often see it is that there's so much focus on the wedding day. Actually, a lot of money spent on the wedding day and not on the marriage. And people are not looking at the marriage and are not looking at it. And even parents are not looking at who the father, if you're talking with the individuals, who the father or the mother of my children are going to be. So like, as you were saying, that we need to look at that. It is the family unit here. This is a new family unit, and what do we have in common? How are we going to raise our children together? Not about what are we going to eat. Actually, I heard recently that there was a divorce of a couple on the same day as the nikah over food. So it's things like this. It's
daily things, really. It's very simple things. I think we need also to make an induction program, orientation, creating awareness among the young people from the Muslim community about the importance of the family, about the what is the expectation for each, the role of each, not today, but even tomorrow. Not only, as you said, in the wedding day, but even in the coming 2 decades. Because it is a long-lasting connection, relationship. It is not 1 day or 1 week or 1 year. So they have to appreciate and recognize the importance of their lifelong partnership until they die. And this cannot be taken, just as you said, because of little food or nobody has done the coffee and then we can divorce. It's simply because I think that this is a lack of knowledge, lack of skill. They cannot even communicate with each other. They lack effectiveness. They lack how to resolve conflict, how to manage conflict and differences. These basic skills, they have to study it. I mean, we know, we are trying to learn how to cook, how to do everything, how to fix our doors and windows, but we don't know how to fix our life.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is how, actually, you probably know that a few of us are developing another program, but over 10 years ago, we developed a pre-marriage workshop day, highlighting some of these issues. It is built on 4 blocks. Actually, people, even the first block is understanding themselves. They don't know themselves and who they are. Underneath, peeling back the layers. Often, they give the ideal textbook answer to who they're looking for and themselves, so that
Yes.
people have a different impression of them. But that's fine for a 2-minute conversation. But if you're leading your life and living together to form a family, you need to be a bit deeper than this and know yourself, who you really are. And then who are you looking for? And there's not, the second block is built in who you're looking for. And what we have found is not even opportunities for a lot of Muslim young people to come together in a halal environment to be able to discuss the differences between genders. How do guys think? How do girls think? So those opportunities are not there. And when we do these courses, they are so shocked to when we have discussions about the other gender, and I never thought guys thought like this or girls thought like this. There's not those opportunities there to enable young people to expand their thinking to understand it. Before we go into actually what you mentioned about the conflict and the different personalities that we have in society, and try to give them a different flavour of those personalities and how would they problem solve with different situations. So even before all of that, there's a lot to go to talk about. And we have a lot of work to do. And this is only the pre-marriage. This is only the very beginning. And then what we're working on now is another one around marriage to when you're about to do the nikah, so that you're coming as couples to take it one level for. And I think, I don't know, how do you feel, but I would like to see all the imams trained up in this. And I know I went to Ireland a few years ago when they changed the law in Ireland, because there everybody has to have a pre-marriage course, whether you are a Catholic or not. It used to be only Catholics, but now it's from every faith. You have to have a pre-marriage course. And I would like to see this, like Malaysia. Malaysia been doing it for many years, to have this in place.
Yes. And let me just touch upon what you just mentioned about the imam. Now, the imam's role here in the West is different from the imam in the Muslim country. Where the majority are Muslim. The imam here is not just what we call a leader of salah for prayer. He is, I think, a counselor. That's one. He's a preacher. He's a researcher. Because he has to know what are the needs and the gaps in the local community, so that he can help and facilitate. He's a supporter. He is, all-round person. And I think all imams should be equipped by the different parts of knowledge and skills to be able to activate their roles in these all areas, because everybody is referring to them. And if they are not aware and they are not well equipped with the knowledge and skills of doing it, then they will give, again, the wrong advice, in the same way as if I send a Muslim couple to, say, a non-Muslim counselor, he might give them the wrong advice as well. So in both sides, we need somebody who is rooted in the Islamic knowledge and rooted in the context and the reality of people or the local community, in order to be able to offer or deliver effective services.
So how can we train, talking about imams like this, and I totally agree with you, we need imams that are counsellors, but a lot of them are not counsellors or don't have the trained. I know there is some, mashallah, really good that are trained counsellors as well, but many don't have any knowledge or skills about counselling. Actually, many here in the UK don't even speak English, whereas the community is speaking English, and they can't even interact.
So this is one, always whenever I go to all the cities, different cities, I say, come on, most of the Muslim now, they are the second and third generation and the fourth generation. Who is responsible for those? Most of the imam, as he said, they don't speak English, or they don't take, they are not connected to the realities of day-to-day of our people. So I think at least one of the organizations should lead to developing a course for imam, dedicated for imam, to help them. And there are a lot of references in English, in Arabic, and in Urdu, in other languages, where we can give them so that they can deliver the right service. And also, we have to educate many new generation, young boys and girls, to become the imam also, and to be the leaders of the local community so that they can communicate effectively with their own people. But another issue, I think, related to the imam and things like that, which parenting also might require, I would like to touch upon as well, is that now the role of the mosque is very, very limited. I've been to different mosques. All I see is just old people there. There is no, I don't see the family members there. I see only old people. I'm talking, there might be some others which they also. We are looking for not a mosque. A mosque is just part of the activities for the needs of the Muslim community. We need community centers whereby we can organize diverse activities which would attract the attention of all members of the family across the different ages and levels of development.
MashaAllah.
Everybody together.
Can we just hold on to this point, brother, because we have to go into a commercial break, I'm afraid, and let us come back to it after this break. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Parenting Hour. You're tuned into Unity FM 93.5 here in Birmingham and 105.1 in Luton and down south. We've been talking in the first half with Professor Dawood, a very interesting conversation we're having here about family, about marriage, about the role of mosques, and we ended on that actually just before the break. We had to go into a commercial break, so welcome back, listeners. I hope you're enjoying this conversation, and we were just going to get into what can mosques do? What else should mosques do? What else should the role of mosques be? And you were telling us there, Professor Dawood, if you'd like to continue. Sorry, I had to cut you off there before the break.
Thank you, sister. As I said, now the role of a mosque is very limited, mainly on prayer, and most of the attendants are old people. But you cannot see, and you can hardly see the rest of the members of the family.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to say that the mosque as community center, where most of the activities required by the different family members, the children, male, female, the adolescents, and so on, they can find something of benefit to them to increase their knowledge, their understanding, their communication, their well-being, everything. So we need all-round community center where we can provide very attractive and motivating activities for the Muslim community where they can aspire to achieve. So I think this should lead to more, collaboration between families and the mosque.
Yes, it is true. When you just look at the knife crime, that is a huge instance of knife crime instance here now in the UK in the last year or so. So many young people, unfortunately, in the wrong place, the wrong time, or got into an argument and stabbed to death. It's terrible what's going on, and we don't have youth centres for the youth, but our mosques most of them don't have community youth centres either, that they can bring in the youth or invite the youth in, or the youth feel attracted to actually go into them. There's some smaller organisations like Scouts that are trying to do some work and engage in young people, and they run these in mosques up and down the country, but on the whole, there is much more of a need because there's much more young people from different ages that are being left out and their needs are not being met.
And then we go and blame the kids.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot blame them. We are not doing enough for them. I think more collaboration should be between families first, then the mosque, the school, and the media. All of them should collaborate together because we would like to have good citizens. And the good citizen needs collaboration, a teamwork. We have to work collectively. We cannot solve the problem. The family alone cannot solve the problem. The school alone cannot solve the problem. The media alone cannot solve the problem. So we have to work together in order to provide conducive environment to help. I can see now some of the mosques in front of them, addicted young Muslim boys and girls. Can you see them in some of the mosques? With my naked eyes. So we are not doing our job. Simply, we are not doing our job. We are busy, as you said, with the food and with just enjoying ourselves and forgetting about our life and about our kids and the future generation of our country. We need good citizens who are responsible, and they can do something constructive for the country.
Mm-hmm. So who should lead on this role? Should it be the mosques or the Muslim communities in general that take a lead on this?
Yes, I think the leaders of the Muslim community, including the mosque imam and the community leaders, they are the most important ones, because they are the ones who are supposed to lead the community. And they have to work on this and to provide the services, as I mentioned, for all different groups, and also attractive, because some of the kids, they are forced to go just to read Quran, and that's it. This is not the way. We want to shape the personality, not to memorize only. Shaping personality, it means that you have to tackle intellectual, social, emotional, spiritual, all balanced, holistic approach. We have to look at our kids in a holistic manner to develop their personality, not to just inculcate them with certain words. It's what matters is the way they behave and the way they conduct their life. I think we are doing something wrong thing. We want to discuss and brainstorm and see what are the real problems, what kind of research we have done for ourselves, and what program we have developed, and then to what extent we evaluated the impact of our program. I want just to ask, all the programs conducted by the mosque, great, but what is the impact of it? Did we investigate the impact of it? Did we make any corrective actions for our own gaps and mistakes? We have to admit our own mistakes. So I think the most important thing is that we plan correctly, and this should be led by the leaders and the imam and the mosque. Second, we have to develop programs for the whole family members. Third, we have to implement them. Fourth, we have to evaluate the impact of what we are doing. All intervention should be evaluated to see whether we are doing, doing the right thing or not. This is a logical sequence of things. I think we have to do it. No other place.
And that sounds very, very logical approach indeed. But from somebody on the ground that delivers parenting courses, it's not even the imams often are the ones that they find barriers over bringing you or having you there delivering it. And it may be that you actually have a free course to deliver, but you are not able to deliver it in their mosque, because sometimes it comes down to ownership, that they want to have ownership of their own, or sometimes I don't know, they may be worried about what's happening and I don't know what the barriers are there, but there is some of it already available and has the history and has the research and has the publications and has the statistics and have everything that you mentioned, and still it's not being used. So where can we go in situations like that?
I think we need people, champions. We need champions.
Mm-hmm.
Those, at least, even if they are few, but they understand. Now, mostly, I would label them as cultural clubs. They are not really British mosques. They are for certain groups coming from certain countries. We are interested to see a British Muslim mosque, whereby everybody who say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah is part of that. It's not cultural groupings. I don't want to be bad in my comment, but what I'm thinking of, the Muslims should be one ummah. And we have to work together across this, not only families and mosques, but across different mosques. They have to work because we have big challenges. No single mosque can do much unless we work together.
Mm-hmm.
Partnership, networking, understanding, working together, teamwork should be, the main theme which help us to conduct our work. In order to, I'm not saying to overcome all the problems, but at least to mitigate them.
Mm-hmm.
To reduce the great impact. Now we are seeing our children are, some of them, as you said, committing crime, some are addicted, so that should ring a bell for all Muslims in Britain to collaborate and work effectively with other organizations, whether a public institution or a private institution or NGO, third sector institution, working together to help our new generation.
Mm-hmm. It seems very logic in what you're saying, and I totally agree. We need to be working together. But when I just think back of Ramadan and even a recent Eid, actually, when we had Eid being celebrated, Hajj was on the TV, and different days we were celebrating it here in the UK, so it wasn't even just Ramadan. How can we start working together on the bigger picture when we can't even agree on that one day?
I think, to me, the new generation should work. I don't, capitalize upon the old generation. I'm capitalizing about the new generation, who should be more enlightened to adopt more practical, realistic views of their life here. We are talking about the British Muslim. We're not talking about any particular British Muslim who should play a great role in constructing and developing the country. And that should let them not only collaborate among themselves, the Muslim, but even with the non-Muslim, with other religions in the country, where they can work towards developing the country itself.
Yeah, that's a really good point, in working together in collaboration and Muslims taking an active role in this. So if you were talking about youth centres, yes, it could be attached to a mosque, it could be a centre in the middle of a mosque or a church or somewhere where you come together with collaboration, that both faiths take some responsibilities in how to educate and raise the young people to be better citizens of this country.
I agree with you totally.
It's a difficult place to start. And do you think that our mosque leaders, there is a group, or there is a respected individual, or a few individuals that our mosque leaders would look up to start this process?
I think there are some. Because we started to see sometimes in several mosques in different parts of the UK, led by a second or third generation now. I think they're very optimistic. The ball will start rolling, and I'm very optimistic that we can do something about it, even if we started small. I believe in gradual, incremental change. No problem. If you cannot, we say in our own proverb, if you cannot, achieve it all, something is better than nothing. We have to do something. We have to be constructive. It's not enough to just criticize and to be critical of everything. But show me what you can do. Even if it is so little, I don't mind, so long as we are advancing, we are developing, we are improving. So we need people who are positive, optimistic, hopeful, and they can act in order to help the community, whether in the marriage institution or in parenting program.
And to get that start, and I agree that a start is really important. Even actually if it fails, you learn a lot from that. You learn not to do it that way, to do it a different way. It is making that start and feeling that responsibility to make the next society better. So how can we start off that with some of these wonderful imams and eminent scholars here that do have and do want to do this? There is some that, as you mentioned, there is some that are counsellors already and do have that knowledge. Is there, and I suppose I don't know if you know the answer to this, either a body in the UK that can bring people together? Is there a best practice that we can share best practice from, look at a model and what they're doing and then share that best practice?
I don't know exactly a particular organization as a benchmark for all, but maybe individual, yes. But those individuals in those organizations, they might work and start doing some organized activities like seminars. They discuss and they work collaboratively in developing programs and implementing them. That might be the starting point, at least with individuals. If we got somebody, say, from Scotland, one from Wales, two from England, or three, and then they can meet and they can discuss and they can develop programs. I'm sure there are. I believe I know some of them, yes. In Scotland, in England, and here and there, as you said, in Ireland as well. So there are some people who can do, and they are serious about it. Particularly, I'm talking about the second and third generation. And they are well educated, they are well versed in Sharia, they are related to their own life and contact, and the hope is there. The hope is there, and maybe those people should take the lead in order to create awareness. It might take a few years to take awareness and then establish centers and then, develop programs and disseminate it to everybody so they can learn from it, study the problems the Muslim community are facing and how can we, overcome them and so on.
Yeah, there is some, reflecting back again on the Scouts, that's what's happening there and how they have now so many Scout organisations, Muslim Scout organisations up and down the country. And that is a good example of how they bring the youth together to learn, as you say, physical development, emotional development, social development, psychological development, spiritual development in under one roof. But they have a lot of fun in doing that, so it attracts people to come rather than the traditional methods, and there is still need for a Quran and Arabic lessons, but maybe we need to relook at how is that being delivered. If somebody is sitting down and they are sitting in the corner and just told to recite, and then they have a 2-minute slot to be heard, that's not the education system here in this country. So young people, when they come to the madrasas and have that kind of a system, often rebel against it because in the UK the education system is different.
It's discouraging. I know. People, in fact, they have a very negative impression about attending that traditional school simply because it was delivered not in a motivating way. They don't find fun in it. They don't enjoy it. And that's, Islamically speaking, we are talking about the heart. Number one is the heart before the brain. If you gain the heart of our kids, then they can follow you. But if you are forcing them to do it, they will never follow you because their heart is not with you. So I think the most important thing, our heart. In Islam, we say everything in the heart. If the heart is sound, the whole body is sound. So how can we attract and gain the heart and the trust of our young people? But also, I want just to tell you about one thing. You mentioned the young people and the scout and everything, but to me also we should not lose sight of early childhood stage.
Sorry, I missed that.
Early childhood stage.
Yes.
Because the kids from 0 to 8 years, in fact, 80% of our personality is shaped at this stage. So, most of the parents, unfortunately the Muslim parents, they don't give the due attention to this group of kids from 0 to 8.
Well, you're definitely to talk my language, because we nearly bang our own heads off the wall trying to get that message across to parents about especially now the latest research on the 1001 critical days, so pregnancy and up to the age of 2 or 3 years old, and the brain development that happens then. But our parents don't see the importance of this, and actually, we see issues down the line, like the marriage issues you were talking about, going back to those early days when that child, that baby, didn't have that connection with their parents.
Yes. So, in fact, then, unfortunately, parents or families, they start to cry. They cannot control their young people. Yes, because you didn't give the due attention for the early years. How can you complain now? It's too late. So we have to help families to realize the importance of this stage, and also develop the program how to instill and cultivate our iman, our akhlaq, our faith, our characters and ethics at that early age. So that when they grow up, we don't complain later on about the problem and the difficulties or challenges they are facing.
Yes.
And it's missing in the Muslims. Among the Muslims, it's missing. I think it's missing.
We find this every day, actually, that we have a lot of parents that are queuing up to do our teenage courses, our parents of teenagers, but when we come to our pregnancy and beyond, or pregnancy up to 3, it's very, very different. And this is the time that we need to be getting the message across in there. This is the time that we need to be developing that bonding, secure attachment there with that child, because this impacts the rest of their lives when we look and reflect back, and we can actually relate a lot of things back to that situation. And it's not that if parents are listening to us, we can do things later on, but we need, this time is very, very important, and we need parents to come forward and to think about that. And there is, how often I describe it to parents, and I haven't described it to you before, but how I describe it is we have hydrogen and oxygen to come together and form water. In the vapor stage, when those molecules are easy to move around, so steam of a kettle, for example, it's so easy to develop the parenting. So this is the pregnancy to 3 age. So easy to develop the character of that child in that age. After that steam, you've got liquid. You can still move the liquid around. It's harder than the steam, but you can still move it around. This is the 4 to 11 age. This is the school-going age. But after that liquid, what comes next is the ice. If you get in early, you can sculpture that ice, and which you need to touch up. But if you don't, you've got blocks of ice that you've got to move. So this is how I describe it to our parents, that we need to get in early to prevent the problems later on.
Very nice description. Very nice description. You are right. You are right.
Yeah, so there's...
We are lacking this understanding. I think maybe as a result of lack of knowledge, as I said, and lack of skill from the side of the parents and the family, causes a lot of trouble for the future, for the next generation, because we in Islam, we don't focus only on the children, but also the grandchildren, the offspring in the future. That we should focus. That there is an ayah in the Quran. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. So we are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us and to guide our offspring and to make us a leader of the muttaqin. So it means very ambitious. We have to be very ambitious in developing the capacity of our kids. And that needs a lot of knowledge and skill from the side of the families or the parents in particular.
Yes, of course. And as a grandparent myself, I understand there's a very important role for grandparents actually in raising children. If you relate it to some of the old African sayings that said it takes a village to raise a child, which is so true. It takes a lot of us to come together to surround that child, to support those parents as well, and other parents in raising children. So we all need to come together. We all need to take an active role. As we're coming towards the end of the show, subhanAllah, time goes very quickly here. Is there any practical advice, practical tips, one or two tips that you could just give parents now that are tuned in, that are listening to this and would like to make a difference here and now?
Well, the most important thing I would advise parents is to adopt lifelong learning. They have to seek knowledge and skills, how to manage the home, how to manage their families, how to manage their marriage, how to manage also their kids. I think it is very important is to learn because ignorance causes a lot of trouble to all of us. They need to continue learning from cradle to grave. Thank you very much.
That's really good advice, mashallah. Keep learning from cradle to grave, and inshallah may Allah reward us in all of that, and reward you also, Professor Dawood, for coming on today's show. Mashallah, it was very inspirational and wonderful for me to talk to you. Jazakallah khairan, inshallah, and have a lovely trip back. Are you along here? Are you going back soon? Or are you?
Yes. Thursday I'll be leaving for Malaysia.
MashaAllah. We'll have a safe trip back, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan. And listeners, have a lovely week, inshallah. And I hope you do tune into a next Parenting Hour, inshallah.